Hi there, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hart of It All. This one is a big one. I wish I could tell you that as you get older, your financial situation matters less, but it's just not the case. Your financial situation or the finances of the person you are caring for will drive a lot of the decisions that you make. Today on the pod, we are unpacking those financial questions that both you and I have with Canada's personal finance explainer-in-chief, Rob Carrick. I am Teri Hart, your host for The Hart of It All, a podcast about the realities of caregiving. One of the big realities is money. It will be the determining factor for so many of us. We know that 96% of Canadians over the age of 65 want to age in place, but that will cost money because most will need help and probably need to do some home renovations for that to happen. There are products on the market. There's also downsizing, but that too can cost money and may just be a stopgap before a retirement community. We all have to live somewhere, and as we age, we need that place to fulfill different needs. How can we make that happen? And what are our options? Our guest today is longtime personal finance guy Rob Carrick. You may have read him in the Globe and Mail for over 30 years. He still contributes there bi-weekly, and he has a very informative Substack, which I highly recommend. He's also speaking and consulting and generously joining me here on The Hart of It All. Rob, a very warm welcome. Thanks for being here.
No problem, Terry. Glad to do it.
So in March, you wrote an article for the Globe entitled Home or Retirement, What Canadians Will Really Pay as They Age. We're going to dig into that article, but I want to back up a bit and talk to you about what you know about what people get wrong about their living situation as they age.
What I think they get wrong is the idea that it will be a clear lifestyle choice between aging in place or moving into a retirement community. Oh, I'm a private person and I love my home. I'll stay age in place. I'm a gregarious person and I really like company. I'll move into a retirement home. There's a lot more to it than that. There are the costs of care. There's the costs of support. There's the issue of like home upkeep while I'm a senior. There's how much family support do you have? There are some hard cost comparisons. A retirement home has a set monthly fee, which will go up by inflation. And as you add additional services, you will pay more. But living at home, it's like the black box. Oh, I'll need a little bit of care. Oh, I need to add more hours. And then we're talking about, care at like $25 to $40 an hour. And I thought maybe 1 hour a day would be fine, but now I need 5 hours and then I need 10 hours and then I need more than that. Costs are going bing, 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 bing higher. And I think people have no idea what they're up against until they start to buy this care. And then all of a sudden they're just blown back by how much it costs.
So, am I hearing you correctly, Rob, that when people move into a retirement community or a long-term care facility, they could and probably will be paying extra for care in those facilities?
Absolutely. 110%. First of all, let's be clear about the difference between a retirement home and a long-term care / nursing home. A retirement home is an independent living community where you'll get a little support. You'll have your meals made for you. People will help you clean your unit. You get your own private apartment. You can come and go as you like. In a nursing home, long-term care home, much more support, much more care. That's for people who have dementia or mobility issues. In some provinces, the cost of long-term care and nursing homes is capped. And whereas retirement homes can charge pretty much what the market bears, and there'll be basic ones and moderate ones and really fancy ones. But wherever you are, you might think, I'm in a retirement home and I'm losing mobility and I can't do a lot of stuff for myself, but I don't want to go into a long-term care nursing home. So I will get a PSW, a personal support worker, to come in and help me get dressed in the morning and maybe help me eat and clean up and do a few other tasks. So I'm paying the cost of renting my room at the retirement home and getting my meals and my accommodation included, but I'm also paying for PSWs to come in and spend a certain number of hours with me every day. So that's how you get the tiered costs.
And to put a finer point on that, retirement communities are private, whereas long-term care facilities are government run.
Well, in broad general strokes, yes. So the retirement homes are like there's all kinds of different levels and amenities to look at, different situations, different locations in the city. They're catering to very affluent people, more broad based. There's ones that are non for profit that are run by religious institutions. There's a huge menu of places to pick. Nursing homes and long term care homes are a bit different. I know in Ontario, there's often a waiting list to get in, and you have to sort of find a few that you think would be a good place for you or your aged parent to go into, and you put yourself on the waiting list. And then they tell you, okay, your spot's opened up. Do you want to go in? You say yes or no. And that's how that works usually.
You know, Rob, this is a podcast about caregiving, and you are a finance guy. So, why is it important for families to talk about money in relation to aging and care?
Well, I should preface what I'm going to say by saying I am a finance guy, but I'm also a care guy because I have a 97-year-old mom. And my wife has two parents still with us, and they're both in their mid 80s, and all of them have some degree of care needs. All of them are in retirement homes. And so I have my finance background and my caregiving present are all combining here. So, why you should have the talk is unless you have the talk in advance, you're going to be making a lot of decisions under stressful conditions. You're going to be trying to find a situation for your parents. You're going to be thinking, how do I get help in? What does the province cover? What do I have to cover? Where do I find it? How does it work? How quickly can I make this happen? And um, you're going to be scrambling. And if you have an advanced talk, you can at least know, I know my parent wants to stay at home if possible, but their budget isn't unlimited. Maybe they will have to go into a retirement. Maybe that's a more economical, all around better solution. Where's the money? How much can they afford? What's going to happen to their home and how much might their home equity if they sell the home help? You need to sort of have a roadmap available so that you when things change, you know what to do and you know where the money is and you know what's realistic because people might want to do certain things. I don't want to go to retirement. I want to have care. But do you know how much that care is going to cost? And if it's not affordable, maybe retirement home is a better option. So having these talks in advance can help people understand what's possible and be on the same page.
Right now, I just want to go back to the idea of, we said in the intro, Rob, 96%. I don't know if you're familiar with this number. I'm sure it won't surprise you, but 96% of Canadians over the age of 65 say that they want to age in place.
Yeah.
So that's a huge, huge number.
That's an uninformed number. There's no way 96% of people are gonna be aging in place. I think they're just saying, "Oh, I don't prefer to go into a retirement home." They probably haven't checked out retirement homes. They don't know that there's many places that look quite good and offer all kinds of things that they may want. They have no idea that they're gonna need home care, and they have no idea what the costs are. So I think the actual number of people who end up aging in place will be much less than 96%.
I 100% agree with you. And the fact is, most people, I think, from a financial standpoint, need to figure out how they're going to pay for this stage of life. And for many people, it is about using that home equity to pay for, which means you aren't living in the home, you're using the home equity. Fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different ways to access home equity, but it's a clumsy tool to use for financing your lifestyle because there's a heavy cost to it. You have all this home equity, but the irony is, and it's a great source of wealth. It looks great on your net worth and your personal balance sheet, but it's hard to access. I mean, the easiest way is I'll sell my house and I'll move somewhere much cheaper and I'll have all this extra money. But a lot of people, when they're in the early retirement phase and they sell their family home and they want to move to a condo or a townhouse, often the place they want in the condo or townhouse world isn't that much less than the equity they sold their house. And so there's really not a life-changing amount of money left over. Where this can work is I am selling my family home and moving into a retirement home. So I'm taking this big block of equity, and from that, I will pay my monthly rent at the retirement home. And that can work quite well.
Interesting. Okay. In your article, you link to the cost of aging calculator. What is the cost of aging calculator and why did I almost pass out when I used it?
Well, the cost of aging calculator is an initiative from the National Institute of Aging at Toronto Metropolitan University. It's a non-biased, academic-based tool to help people understand how much it's going to cost to live in retirement. And there's various different variables in the calculator. You could say, I'm living at home in a place I own. I'm living at home in a place I rent. What if I go to a retirement home? What if I go to a long-term care home? What if I need extra care in any of those situations, at home, in a retirement home, or in a long-term care home? And it helps you understand the cost, which is invisible to anybody who isn't in it, or you aren't doing a fact-finding mission on the fly because your aged parent needs to move somewhere different. I thought this is a super valuable tool, but the costs are can hit you in the face. I mean, I think that's what you're talking about there. Like they are considerable. You know, if you are a healthy retiree and you're living in your house that you own, that's a good, cheap, economical situation, assuming that you don't have any grandiose plans to renovate your house. Um, but when you start adding care, whether you live at home or you move into a retirement home, all of a sudden the monthly costs start getting much higher. And, I think people will need to think, what would I like to do and what can I afford to do? And then find the best solution that manages both variables.
Can you say that again for me, please? What I like to do and what I can afford to do.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is the lifestyle I choose, and what I can afford to do is what the dollars and cents will let me do. I mean, I might not be able to afford this great retirement home that I think would be much better than living in my other home, or I might want to remain at home. But if I have certain health challenges, I may need a level of care that is costing thousands per week. And do I have the income to cover that?
What are some of the costs that folks need to consider when they might be in fine, fine health when they're retiring at 65 or 68 or 62? But what are some of the factors that they need to consider when they are thinking, I am going to age in place and here's what I'm planning for financially?
Okay, so when you're aging in place, you may, at a certain point when you make that decision, you may think, okay, I can shovel the driveway in winter and I can manage my yard. But at a certain point, you may not be able to. So then you're hiring people to do some of the basic tasks around there. And there might be some home fix it things that you could do before, but you're not going to be doing them. So you're going to have to pay extra for that assistance. And you may have family and friends who will pitch in and help. But I think you may find at some point that you're going to need to pay for people to do home maintenance tasks. And then there's the issue of care. I mean, many seniors who are in great health can last into their through their 80s and their early 90s, managing for themselves, maybe with a little help from family and friends, and they don't need any personal support work or help. But if you do, you may find the province you live in provides a certain number of free hours. You'll get an assessment, and they'll say you can get 1 hour per day. But usually that's not enough after a while. So you're going to want to supplement that. And then you're going to look up what's the cost of getting a personal support worker to come to my house and help me. Well, it could be 25 to $40 an hour. And you're probably going to find at a certain point that you're going to need a block of hours. Like I think it would be typical to say, I need some help in the morning to get going. And then maybe I need some help in the evening to get myself to bed or to get dinner done or to do other household tasks. So it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to have 4 to 5, then up to 8 hours a day of care, and so you're multiplying that by 25 to $40 an hour times 7 days a week, and then you're paying them extra for working stat holidays. That's a 365 day a year expense. And you know what? Like, your physical infirmities don't take holidays, and so your costs don't take holidays.
That is a clear and stark reality that I do think that people need to take into consideration. One of the reasons that I'm such a fan of how you write about finances and how you write about this particular stage of life is you have a clarity, Rob, and you have a specificity and an actionable way about you. And your most recent Substack article will really, I think, can change lives. It was so great. Everybody go to Rob's Substack and subscribe. It's fantastic. But you published a financial checklist for people with aging parents. This is a paid post, on your Substack, so I'm really asking a favor here, but, I think that you also have in your heart of hearts a want to help people, and obviously being in a caregiving role yourself, you understand the difference it could make. So, do you wanna walk through that checklist with me, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to help people, and it's a checklist of points, based on lived experience. This isn't somebody who's never walked the walk telling you what to do. I mean, there's so much financial advice out there, like for retirement, like from people who aren't retired. Well, I am semi-retired, and I have aging parents and in-laws. So when I tell you what the checklist is, this is stuff I've learned sometimes the hard way. And one of the most important things is to have a joint bank account with your parents. Um, so that as they think, oh, I'm losing track of the bills and could you help me with that? You go, sure, I'll log it in the account. It's totally legit because I'm a co account holder and I can pay bills and I can check the debits and credits and make sure, oh, the CPP this month, everything's coming in normally, everything's fine. Your balance is this. As your parents become less able to be fully engaged with their finances, they'll still want to know if they're okay. And you can say, oh, you're okay. I can see that you are spending much less than is coming in and you are good. So you're actually going to be providing practical help, paying the bills, also emotional, psychological reassurance that you don't need to worry about your finances, or maybe you do. And maybe we need to think about maybe paring spending back a little bit. So we'll find a way to cut your expenses a little bit and we'll make sure that we're our spending and spending and income are more in line. But I do think that you're going to be your parents' co-pilot financially to start with, and then maybe the roles reverse, and you're the pilot and they're the co-pilot, and then maybe there is no co-pilot after a while. You're doing everything.
I'll tell you
But
something that's really interesting also, Rob. I don't know if you are familiar with this or not. Again, a lived experience situation. My dad had a couple of little strokes and he had some vascular dementia for the last 10 months to the last year of his life. He died August 1st of 2024. And when we first discovered this, one of the first things we discovered was that the finances were a mess.
yeah,
When we went to see his neurologist, the first appointment, I was lucky enough to be able to be there, and the neurologist said his 3rd question after, "What's your name? What's your birthday? Have you had any financial problems?" Because financial problems are one of the first things that show up with any form of dementia, and that was really fascinating to me.
I think that is extremely good intel about what the environment is like for having an aged parent. So, I mean, there's many different risks. There's just natural cognitive decline. There's mobility issues where people can't work a mouse and can't handle their online bill payments, and they can't manage the cell phone to call to get onto the phone queue to deal with their financial institution. I think being a co-account holder is, for families that are simpatico and parents and kids are on the same side and there's no family frictions, this is a very good option. You might, I mean, I had a joint account with my mom who's now 97. I had it for years and years and it was dormant for a while because I didn't really need to use it. And then I would basically take a peek at it, and then I realized my mom was having trouble paying the bills. She asked me, "Can you check my account and pay my bills?" No problem. I've done it. On my Google Calendar, I have pay mom's Rogers cable bill, and I do that. And then we pay her credit card bill, and we make sure there's money in her various accounts to pay the monthly fee at her retirement home and pay for her personal support workers. And I do all of that. She did 90% of it when we started. Now I do 100% of it. Many years later.
All right, so number 1 on the financial checklist for people with aging parents, have a joint account. What's number 2?
Well, I would get familiar with their monthly costs. Like, what bills do they have? Like, do they have a cell phone bill and maybe another telecom bill? Are they living at home paying all their utilities? Are they living in a retirement home where everything's included, but it's one big monthly cost? You want to make sure that everybody's being paid on schedule and that there is always a surplus in the account. So the only way to do that is to basically know what's coming in and what's coming out.
Okay. Number 3 on your financial checklist.
I would say it's very important to get a copy, assuming you have power of attorney for property for your parents, and that's a document that allows you to make financial decisions on behalf of your parent. You should have a paper and electronic copy of that because you may be dealing with a, for instance, maybe with an accountant for your parents or with their taxes, and you have to sign that document that empowers the accountant to file your parents' taxes with CRA. Having the POA and providing it to the accountant will enable you to act as the POA. It's nice to have the document, but you have to have financial companies and financial service providers understand and have a copy of it to verify that this has happened. So I would have that handy. They say, "Oh, I want to sign for my parents. Or do you have a POA for property?" "Yes, I do." Bing, here it is. I send it to you, so you have it. You have it.
Hey, here's the thing. So again, I uh I s- I was able to help my parents in when things went sideways. And one of the things that we did is I was my dad's authorized representative on his CRA account. And I'll tell you, Rob, boy, oh boy, did I ever make a mistake in that process because I thought that we could call up and just have it done and I could like tell my dad the answers to say and whatnot. Well, the fine gentleman at CRA uh, thought that I was doing exactly what I was doing, let's be clear. And he shut down, he froze my dad's CRA account, which
Yeah.
added a level of stress in an unbelievable stressful time. So I know that this isn't on your financial checklist, but you're nodding your head for anybody who's just listening, this is audio, you're
Well,
nodding your head.
I actually did in the list encourage people to consider the authorized representative. But the problem is that a lot of interactions where you're going to act for your parent, they're going to want to have the parent with you. Like my wife had a conversation with when my in-laws moved from their condo to a retirement home. They didn't need home insurance anymore. So they want my wife contacted the insurance company to cancel the owner's policy. They'll have a renter's policy. And they said, well, we can't deal with you unless we have authorization from your parents. So my wife had to do a conference call to get them in just to say, yes, we authorize our daughter to do this. And the CRA is another example of this. It's like this three-cornered negotiation, you, your parents, CRA, or the financial service provider. And it becomes very tricky because the CRA is worried about fraud. And seniors are like prime victims of fraud. And it's not outside the realm of possibility. Someone would say, I'm the representative for so and so. Let me get access to their account or my account. And bad things can happen. But there has to be a balance between making it easy for kids to act on behalf of their aged parents and security and fraud prevention. So I don't think they've quite got that mix, and your story kind of highlights that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why the rules exist. It didn't make it any less frustrating in a time that I was already wanting to pull my hair out. Okay, so we've got a joint bank account. We know what our monthly costs are. We have a power of attorney for property that is both a paper and an electronic copy. What's number 4, Rob?
You got to be ready to help with their investments. That's going to be so important. So you want to be able to say, my parent has these many accounts. What are they doing with them? Like, do they have a registered retirement income fund that they're using to help pay their expenses? And how are the withdrawals made? And where does that money come from? And how much longer is that going to last? And do they have a TFSA? Where is it? How are they accessing that? Do they have a big account with an investment advisor? How is that working? Do they have accounts at the bank? Mutual funds or GICs at the bank? And what's happening with that? Because you may need at some point need to deploy that money to help pay the expenses. Where is it? How much are these investments worth? Or has my parent been making smart decisions to manage the account, or have things been sliding? Is there a lot of money sitting in cash? Is the account diversified in a way that makes sense for a senior of advanced age? You need to be aware of all of this. And it may just be having a quick chat, your parent, and the parent's financial advisor to make sure everything's on side. And maybe the advisor's got a good eye on this. But a lot of seniors may have accumulated a bunch of different accounts. And you want to make sure that all the assets are somewhere where we can use them to help pay expenses.
Another boots on the ground story. When we discovered the challenges, I said to my dad, okay, what's your password for your online banking account? And he said, which one? And I said, pardon me, what do you mean, which one? Well, my dad had two bank accounts that he equally used to pay different things. His philosophy was, he was a baby boomer. His philosophy was, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Literally, what if one of the banks goes under? I think that that is a unique generational viewpoint, but my dad had it, and I think a lot of boomers, certainly older boomers, people listening to this who are Gen X or millennials may wanna ask their parents how many bank accounts they have.
You know what? Apps, how many bank accounts they have, and how many brokerage accounts they have, and how many investment accounts they have. Um, I think people, there's the I don't want to have all my assets go down if this company goes under. There's that. There's also, I started this one when I was in my 20s, and then I moved to a different part of town or a different city, and then I opened this account, and then I tried out this broker, but I didn't really like them, but I left my account there. There's like this trail of accounts, and often there could be many different things, and sometimes with enough assets in them to think we don't want this to go overlooked.
Are we also putting in this category, Rob, understanding what your parents might have for insurance from their pensions or what their pensions are? What the is this in that category as well?
Absolutely. I mean, the pensions are more of an automatic thing, though, because in 2026, it's hard to imagine anybody isn't having their pension money electronically deposited to their bank account every month. So that's not something you have to worry about. It's just there, and you'll see it when you open their bank accounts. You'll see, you know, monthly input from, assuming they worked, Canada Pension Plan, old age security for most people. There might be investment accounts that are paying on a monthly basis. They might have a monthly pay GIC, but they'll also have a company or their employer pension plan, and you'll know right away how much it is, and you'll see it what day of the week, what day of the month it comes in, probably the first of the month, and you'll see it right. And listen, it's nice to say pensions are great for the recipient, but also for the kids of the recipient because that's automatic money.
Right. Yeah, you can depend on it. Okay, joint account, monthly costs, power of attorney, both paper and electronic. Be prepared to help with investments, which means understand where the investments lie. How many accounts are there? We're on to number 5. What's number 5?
I would say get the lowdown on your parents' taxes. Um, there's going to come a time, very likely, when they are going to need help getting that looked after. Whether they used an accountant or they did it all themselves with software or on paper, they're going to think, I'm just having trouble getting all the papers together, and I'm going to need your help to get my taxes done. And seniors who have spent a lifetime looking after their income tax, this is going to weigh on them. They're going to thinking, I don't want to owe CRA money. I don't want to pay any interest penalties. I want to pay what I owe, or I know I'm getting a refund. I want that money, and it will be a big deal to them, I think. So, what I think you want to do is, as you sort of take on the tax responsibility, find out who does their taxes, and if it was them, the senior themselves, you may have to figure out, I am willing to take this on because it's fairly simple, or there's no way I'm touching this. And then you're going to have to sort of say, what is their tax situation? Is it super simple? They have a T4 from the government for their CPP and their OAS. And maybe if they have a company pension, they've received a T4 for that. And they've got a bunch of T slips for investment income and interest income. And that's it. If they have multiple investment accounts, you're going to need slips from each account. And did your parents sign up to have them mailed, or are they online accounts where you have to log into the account and download it? I mean, either way is fine, but you need to know this is a job to start in March 1st as all the T slips start to arrive. And then usually by about April 1st, you've got everything and you can send it in.
Okay, taxes, they can be more cumbersome than you imagine. Number 6 on the list.
I would make sure that your parents have settled out who the beneficiaries are for their registered retirement income funds and tax-free savings accounts. If they have if your parents are you have both your parents, then they're going to want to have the money in a TFSA or a RIF go to their partner. And there are designations that are preferable for that. If you read my Substack, there's more information on that. But you want to make sure, have you picked a beneficiary for your TFSA and for your RIF? And often you can find that out if you log into the account, that information may be available. Your parent may know, yes, I've made your mother my beneficiary, whatever. If there's no beneficiary, I believe it just goes into the estate, so it's not a crisis. But you want to, if there's a surviving partner, what you ideally want is to pick a situation so that the RIF or the TFSA becomes the property of the surviving spouse, and it doesn't have to be cashed in, and there's no tax. They just basically take over as owner.
That's what you want.
Right.
100%. Number 7?
This is my last one, and it's to make sure your parents have current ID. And this is one I found on my own. You need ID to open an account, let's say, at some financial company. And you would use a driver's license, but that expired 2 years ago, and no one even remembered. Maybe your parents sort of hung up their car keys, 3 months before their license would have expired anyway, and never got renewed, and all of a sudden they don't have a driver's license. Well, passport, they haven't traveled in 15 years, so there's no passport, and then what are you doing? So, I think that, getting documents renewed, especially while your parent is mobile and able to go to a license office and have their picture taken and get their license renewed, is extremely worthwhile. Like, look at renewal dates and clock in a date to get that taken care of, the renewal taken care of, be it a passport or a driver's license. And there are also provincial ID cards you can get that for people. They're basically for people that don't drive and don't have a passport. I would try to set that up if the driver's license is already expired and there's no way you're going to get that back. But it's going to be very handy to say, I have ID for my parent to open this account. Here it is. Don't try to open the account and find out you need this, and then everything's held up while you go and secure the ID.
Worth its weight in gold. These 7 tips are going to make such a difference in people's lives. And we're going to make a more difference in people's lives because you're going to come back next week, Rob, because there's so much to talk about. I need to unpack with you RIFs, reverse mortgages, and understanding tax implications because it can be way more confusing than I think. Will you come back next week?
I'd be glad to.
Thanks, Rob.
You're welcome.
Part 2 coming next week. It is going to be about registered retirement investment funds and also home equity lines of credit and reverse mortgages. I am so grateful to Rob for sharing his expertise. And listen, there's going to be so much that we will talk about with regards to finance right here on The Heart of It All. This podcast is only possible because of my co-producers, Carrie Hayden and Jess Carroll from 6 of 1 Digital. And of course, also you, our listeners, and the community we are building on social media everywhere at the Heart of It All pod. Please give us a follow or a subscribe, and don't be shy. Send us a DM with something you'd like to hear about here on the podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, please take care. This week's recommendation is one of my favorite finance movies. It is Adam McKay's The Big Short. Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Christian Bale, all breaking down the 2008 financial crisis because of the mortgage debacle in the United States. So much criminal behavior that nobody went to jail for. Still makes me angry. But The Big Short will help you understand it and get you thinking about finances in a way that we all should be. Check out The Big Short. It's this week's The Heart of It All recommendation.